Hello and welcome to another episode of OnReviewCast. I'm your host here, Ash, and today we're taking a look at One Piece live action episode 2 on review.
One Piece live action season 1 episode 2.
One Piece live action. Jumping into episode 2. And I gotta say, this episode, I know like last week we were given a lot of we were hyping it up a bit. We were giving a lot of hype up to exactly what was going on with Luffy and what essentially what the status of that was around the show in general. I guess maybe because it was a pilot, but this time around, I think we're definitely seeing the, I don't know how to even put this, the not so strongness of anime energy, I guess, within this episode. I mean, I know that, here's the thing, right? Going through these episodes and going through OnReviewCast in general, like, I mean, I get it. Like, not every episode can be a banger. Of course not. Like, you gotta have some slow episodes. You gotta have some episodes that like slow it down, take a second to, you know, just kind of like take a beat and be like, so it can kind of like breathe, right? To quote that one guy from The Incredibles, what does he say? Like, if everything is intense, then nothing is intense. So I understand like where we have to have some kind of like pause of essentially like some kind of pause of like, we can't always have action going. But needless to say, this episode was definitely a little. It had its moments. It has moments of where the action definitely paced up. But I think it definitely fell down from last week, maybe because it wasn't the hottest, freshest, newest thing. That's like aesthetics wise, action wise, in my opinion, honestly, everything. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments. Like, let me know. Let's definitely interact with us on all our socials and, you know, give your opinion on this. But episode 2 is the whole Buggy the Pirates episode. It's the whole Buggy experience. And again, in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that certain things have to change within the live action, have to be or are more likely to change to make the scene work in live action rather than that of the anime. It's definitely easier to draw certain things in anime than it is in or it is to do maybe in production and live action, honestly. But that being said, I mean, I think some of the things that made the first episode, the pilot, shine definitely got away from in the second episode. More use of like heavily used like green screen, like on the water and etc. in the background. It's just kind of, and like the background making it look like a little static, like before they even like met the Buggy Pirates. Just very, very things like that. Things that like degrade the quality or the strength of the episode is what I think, in my opinion, kind of like it's kind of harming. Well, I think or at least they attempted what it's going for. We're still giving it its graces of it being a production, and they have certain limitations for sure. A live action production, and it has certain limitations. But I mean, I don't know. I think let me know if again, like I said, guys, how you feel about this one. I think we kind of like went down a little bit here. One of the things also, like, let me know in the comments, like, meeting the clowns, Buggy the Clowns. I hadn't seen One Piece in like a really long time, like early days One Piece. One Piece I watch on a regular, like I'm in the Wano arc. I think I talked about that a little bit in the last episode, but like I hadn't watched early day One Piece in quite some time. And I don't know, I can't remember if like this is the way they really meet Buggy. I remember certain things from the Buggy saga of when they first met him and had interactions with him. I remember the water tank, which they did do in this episode. oddly enough, but we're gonna get into specifics as to why that kind of like bothered me a little bit. But I remember a tank and him and Luffy drowning to a certain extent. I also remember someone being like under a cannon and being held as like a hostage. I remember a giant dog, which didn't play into this at all. But yeah, this is the whole Buggy saga, and certain things they did within the manga, they didn't do necessarily within the live action. And again, I understand certain things had to change, but it's when we stray away from those changes too much where things get a little like hairy, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. I don't know, did it stray too much? Is that why it wasn't as enjoyable? I mean, I don't know. I remember, again, like, I'm pretty sure, actually, they don't meet Buggy this way. There's no red thing in the sky that knocks them all out and they get captured in this box. And, like, that's not what happens. I'm pretty sure that's not what happens. Can't be what happens. Like, I don't know. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. But that's what's happening in the live action. There's this red mist and Luffy swallows the map. I don't exactly remember that either. And also, to be fair, guys, like, I only watched early day One Piece. I'm not a manga reader. So wouldn't it be some shit for real as like, because I know like Yuichiro Oda is like supposed to like have like second say in this, and like wouldn't it be some shit for real where like Yuichiro Oda on some like podcast or some kind of news thing comes out, I was like, yes, they were always supposed to be captured by a red mist. And it was always supposed to be done this way. The live action got it more right than the books. Wouldn't it be some shit though, for real? Because those books have sold literally more than millions. Very successful manga. Anyway, so yeah, I don't remember them all being captured on in a crate. Some of the things that they did do right in this episode was, I'll say, some of the aesthetics in terms of like the people and the clothing. They looked very believable and real. They didn't necessarily look like they came straight out of the comic, actually. I remember like there were some guys, like background characters or secondary characters that had like, like you've seen fucking One Piece. One Piece had some very unique characters, unique looking characters, right? Like you would know, like you would know. That's the thing, I guess, that's definitely strong within the One Piece realm overall in terms of aesthetics. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that later on too. But like the One Piece world is so unique in terms of aesthetics, is that transferring it over to live action and how it's looking is actually it's more on the good side than the bad side. It's more believable. It's like I said before, it's like looking less cosplay and more realistic. But there's definitely some errors here and there, in my opinion. Like that fucking like dog hat thing that Garp was wearing. I mean, like it just looks a little cheap. It looked a little bit cheap. They could have done a little bit of a better job with that. But something that they did do like that was strong was the whole Buggy the Pirates making it look like a circus kind of thing. But then again, the character, like that dog character who was supposed to be a bear or a dog, like legit, there is a character that wears like those ears and that fur that looks like a man bear. But like he just looked like, I mean, I guess it was working, but not really. He just looked like extra ridiculous. He just looked like extra ridiculous, like in a live action form. But at the same time, in the manga, he also looks extra ridiculous. So I mean, like, my judgment's kind of like, it's a little skewed, like it's in that regard. Yeah, I don't know. Buggy himself came off. I'll be honest. Buggy looks good. Buggy looks good, in my opinion. I know some of you might disagree with that. Some of you might not like that take on exactly, that specifically. But Buggy looks decent enough. Buggy looks possible. But I will say his acting was a little bit. His characterization of the character was a little bit Joker-ish from Batman. You know, like he's a bit too much. I feel like vibes of the Joker. He was too much of that. And Buggy the Clown is a little bit of that, but he is not like so much of that. It's just like, I guess, got diabolical villain vibes, not pirate vibes. Do you know what I mean? Not silly pirate joking vibes. Like, it's just more like I'm a supervillain. I'm not necessarily like this is a theatrical play thing for me rather than I am the clown. I don't know. That's just that it was an acting choice. I think that the actor maybe made, or that they went for the portrayal of Buggy. It wasn't very, I don't know, authentic to what I know the character Buggy is in the anime for sure. Yeah. Especially even like, but again, like, am I remembering this wrong? Is it me? Is it really? Is it, maybe it's just me? Maybe it's just, I'm not just like remembering. Maybe he was that kind of character for the early day One Piece. It's been so long since I've seen the original thing, but I don't think that, I don't know. I didn't resonate with that character very, very well. The CGI things that they were doing with him though was, it was for live action, it was possible. I'll say that. He does do a lot of the things that he does in the anime. Separating himself and like turning into a whirlwind of like stuff, and like even the way they beat him with the trunks and stuff. Very close to the anime, but like the way aesthetically it looked was a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit much. But at the same time, like, what you expect them to kind of do that at the same time too. Like, there wasn't really anything else that they could really do there, I guess. You know what I mean? Because that's they're going the CGI route of making things of the devil fruit powers being exploited in that way, and that's the only really real way that they can really do it. I mean, something that just came to mind, I guess, was that, like, could you imagine, like, guys, and feel free to tell me if this is weird. Could you imagine if they did like a comic like version? Like, not like, when I say comic version of, like, it's still live action, but every time they use the devil fruit powers, it's like, it's not super clowny like a comic. It's not over the top, but it's just, it makes it look realistic, but like comic book like. I think that might have worked a little bit better, because every time they do the CGI thing, I'm just like, it's a little sharp. It's a little sharp. You know what I mean? It's a little sharp. It's a little bit much to get used to. So when they do it with like Luffy stretching, even when they do it with like Luffy stretching, it's not as bad. But his coming apart of the different separating of his body, separations of his body, it's a little rough to watch. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that was noticed in this second episode. Yeah, it definitely was. But you know what though? Like I said, like aesthetically, the way the crew was dressed and how everything like giving that vibe of like the circus and stuff, which I don't remember in the anime. They had like a whole big tent. I remember them being outside in the anime, but that's pretty. That these things like making it feel like a whole circus tent thing. That was pretty spot on. I thought that was pretty good, and that was pretty. That was actually pretty well done, and essentially, in my opinion. So yeah, this episode is basically just about like it's the whole Buggy trying to get the map from Luffy to the Grand Line, and this actually happens in the show. I definitely remember that part. That storyline basically essentially happening in the show, although I don't think he swallowed the map. I don't know what he did with it, but I'm not too sure. Like I don't necessarily think that he essentially swallowed it. Yeah, So anyway, we get an update on Kobe this episode and how he's now joined the Marines. And like, yeah, we don't know. Like, it stays true to the story from the manga. And for you, all of you who don't know it, I'm gonna try not to give it a spoiler warning because we already know we're getting season 2 for this. But Kobe is a character to watch out for. I'll say that if you're listening to this and you've never seen One Piece before, Kobe is definitely a character to pay attention to. His growth and development throughout this, and I don't know how far they will go in this because it seems like, from what I've seen anyway, it seems like they only reach up to the Arlong Pirates and they don't really even reach Alabasta. But keep an eye on Kobe. I'll just say that he's more important than you think. For sure, he's more important than you think. But we get an update on Kobe. Kobe's now joined the Marines, and he is trying. Garp is in town. Garp, the hero, is in town, and he's wearing this dog hat, which we mentioned earlier. In the anime, he does wear the dog hat, but I just don't like. I guess I don't like how they could have made that hat look better. I don't know. Maybe it's just like, maybe I don't know what it is. But they could have made that hat look. They could have made it look like a hat. They could have made it look like more like a hat and less like a cosplay thing. Yeah, that was more cosplay then. See, that's the example. That was more cosplay than it was actual One Piece live adaptation of a manga anime series. But yeah, yeah, so many things with this episode. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember Zoro and Nami being captured. I don't remember them. I vaguely remember Zoro being on a wheel. I don't remember Nami being in some kind of cage bird thing with him. But something that they did get correct, I think, is on a deeper kind of level relationship wise between Zoro and Nami, is that Zoro and Nami's relationship kind of does start off on a basis of not necessarily trusting one another, from what I remember. I think Luffy's all on board with her, but Luffy basically trusts anybody, and he's a happy-go-lucky kind of person. But Zoro didn't necessarily trust Nami at all. Sorry about that. So Zoro didn't trust Nami at all, and he didn't often butt heads with her, but he'd be probably like basically straight up with her. I feel like in the manga, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like their relationship was much like that, and it kind of makes sense that, like, because Luffy's more of a kid, he's more. When a kid like attitude when it comes to Nami, he's just like, yeah, okay, we're friends now. But Zoro's like, no, we gotta work up to that. But Luffy him and Luffy are friends, and yeah. And I assume that just comes from him wanting to basically look out for Luffy. And I don't remember Luffy being, actually I sort of kind of remember Luffy being like stretched 4 ways via these ropes in the middle of the circus arena thing that they have. Again, like it's been so long since I've seen One Piece, man. Honestly, well, early day One Piece. I actually got to catch up on some One Piece pretty soon. But yeah. So this episode, like I said, like it's definitely. There's definitely some hits and definitely some misses on that on this one. And I guess one of the things, more or less, the misses I think on this one was the fact that when they started the whole flashback memory of Luffy, I think. When they started that was when I definitely I felt like something was a little bit off for sure, because I this so when they first came, and this is in the first episode, which is kind of weird because the whole story with the conflicts with the other pirates and Shanks in the manga and anime, that all happens in like one episode or one sequence of episodes, but they decided to split it up into 2 episodes, so that kind of felt weird. But anyway, I want to talk about this because when they first show up, it's kind of like in the anime, they spill wine all over. This is what I remember, guys, by the way. They spill wine and drinks all over Shanks, and they actually bust a bottle into his face, into glass into his face. And the green-haired lady, I forget what her name is, who's in charge of the bar, who looks after Luffy, is kind of like, he asks her for a mop or whatever it is, and they make fun of him and they taunt him and etc. Like the first episode kind of sort of does. But the next day later, something happens where they come back and they start to bully Luffy and like start to threaten him and etc. The thing is, during that sequence of when they actually decide to fight them the second time around because Luffy's being bullied or someone else they were causing some kind of trouble or issues. Either way, they get into another argument with these sand pirates or whatever that you want to call them. They look like they're like bandits. They were bandits. That's what they were called. They were bandits in the actual One Piece manga. So the second time they have an interaction with these guys, in the live, let's talk about the live action first. In the live action, it's kind of like, okay, like the way it pops off is like, he's like, okay, you better let him go. And he's standing up for Luffy and et cetera, et cetera. In the anime, and then there are docs, right? In the anime, it's kind of similar, but this is not exactly the way it went down. I know you knew this. You guys know this if you watch the anime. Like, it's much more, in my opinion, it's much more savage in the anime. And I guess like the reasoning for that is maybe safety, and in terms of like safety with guns. But all I remember from the anime is kind of like, well, okay, wait. In the live action, he's like, you better put him down, and he points the finger at him. And then he does like the finger gun motion, like of him firing a gun, and the guy actually comes at him with a sword. Who's coming at him with a sword is actually shot. But in the anime, like Shanks starts to stand up. I think it's either for Luffy or someone else, and then they start to make fun of Shanks, and everyone's laughing, and they're like, ha 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 ha, and all you hear is, and it's like one of the big guys, the big guy that's being portrayed with the glasses and the banana and the piece of meat, he like fucking headshots one of them, and their laughter like stops like dead cold, and then they start to fight in the anime. Like it gets it gets gangster real quick. I guess guys, because everybody's like taunting Shanks or whatever, and like, but that was very homage to, that did pay very much homage to the anime in that regard. With the big guy eating a piece of meat, how he just shoots that guy like in the head, like it's very like, and then that pops off everything. Because I don't know, up until that point in the anime, everything is lighthearted and everything is funny, and like, it's, oh yeah, we're pirates, we're all nice and etc., and nothing bad ever happens, blah blah blah, all this other stuff. But it's like, no, this shit gets real. People die. Well, that's another topic about people dying in One Piece, quote unquote. Like, they're like, people who were supposed to die 10 times over probably don't die until Yuichiro Oda is like, you know what? No, this person's gone. Ace. But anyway, it's just so sad, but not fair. But anyway, the fighting in that scene for the live action is actually pretty good. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Pirates of the Caribbean. Definitely got those vibes. Let me know if you guys agree with that or not. And if that's the case, that's when I started to believe they still have these little inklings of like, this could work. This could be like an actual thing. This could be an actual fucking like show, just a normal show adapted from the comics, as opposed to it looking like some cosplay over the top, you're trying too hard kind of show, right? I think they just need to watch it with that. Like, because if you have too much of that, it's not, fans aren't gonna like it. Like, I don't think it's not gonna be very believable. I think it's the more realistic and the more believable it is, even though it's One Piece and it's ridiculous, the more closer you get to immersing people who are watching this in this world, the better this show will be. And right now, there are some sketchy parts in this part 2 that don't necessarily that do that. And also do it as real as possible. Pay close attention to the homage of the manga within that story. We're gonna come back to that, talking about that whole fight that pops off, because the situation where Luffy is essentially kidnapped and taken out to sea by the main guy. I kind of had, if I'm being honest with you guys, I kind of had a little bit of qualms with that one. Because what the fuck, really, honestly? Because what the fuck, really? But before I want to talk about, before I even get there, something that honestly and truly bothered me, that was not okay, in my opinion. And it kind of hinted towards at the beginning of the episode, where I want to say her name's not Panako. Her name is Panako's the bitch from Luck. What's that old lady? But something that's said from the top of the beginning of the episode, when he's talking to that green-haired girl, the green-haired bartender, Mako, I don't know her name. I'm sure you guys correct me in the comments. When they are talking, and they're talking about the this is kind of scaring me a little bit, right? They start talking about the consequences of the devil fruit, right? And they start saying stuff like, "Oh, you gain these incredible powers for the devil fruit. You know why it's called devil fruit? Because it's like you make a deal with the devil. The sea turns on you, and you become weak. The sea weakens you. You become weak by the sea, and all this other stuff, and all this other like in-depth, over the top stuff." And I'm kind of like, bruh, it just means you can't swim. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, bruh, it just means you can't swim. That's it. It doesn't mean like it's moments like that, and it's moments like, it's situations like that. That's like, it's a bit much. It's a bit going over the top. Why are they trying to add on? Don't try to add on to Yushiro Oda's fucking like. I guarantee you, he probably wasn't like privy to that scene. I don't think he was privy to the exact dialogue maybe to that scene, because he would have probably been like, what the fuck? The sea turns against you. No, motherfucker, it just means you can't swim. That's all it means. I mean, I guess like in a subtext, subtext, you assume that that's what that means. But I mean, that kind of, but it further confirmed my suspicions and my fear. That instilled some fear with me, and it further confirmed my suspicions and fear after the fact that, like, when Buggy is like tired of torturing Luffy or whatever, and I vaguely remember this tank too, he puts him in a tank full of seawater, and it pans over to Buggy the clown, and he's like, "Don't bother, it's seawater." And I'm just like, does he mean sea stone? Does he mean sea stone? Because what the fuck? Because like in the manga, in the anime, in the really actual thing, it's the sea stone that makes you immobilized. It's the sea stone, that special sea stone thing, because that plays a huge role as to why why Ace, spoiler alert, why Ace couldn't break the fuck out of jail and and stop a war. That's all I gotta say. We all know what happened there. But it plays a whole huge role into the One Piece into the One Piece world of the sea stones not being immobilizing devil fruit users. But what's implied here is that the sea water does it. And I say to that, One Piece live action, which was doing so well, with all due respect, fuck off. Fuck off. With all due respect, fuck off. You were doing so well, and because it goes back to having a spectacular strong season 1, strong opener, strong pilot, and then they do this shit. Why would you do that? Because Luffy is now in this tank that's filling up with water, right? And he's just like kneeling there talking to Buggy as Buggy talks to him, and it's kind of like, motherfucker, stand up. Like in the anime, that motherfucker would just stand. You know how much times I see this motherfucker on a beach? Just legit, like when he fights. Again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen One Piece, top of your ears, skip ahead a little bit. But if you haven't seen it, literally when he fights Akijoji the ice guy, and he's preparing to go off and learn the first gear, but right before he learns the first gear, right around that time, he's on a fucking beach, dude. It's not like it's the second he touches like sea water, he turns like, it's not like kryptonite for this motherfucker. That's not how it works. But some writer or some dipshit was in there, was like, oh yeah, let's put him in a tank in a sec. He can't escape because the water, the sea water, right? Yeah. Luffy, comic book Luffy would have bust the fuck out of there so quick. Like, especially like how it turns out the way how he escapes is Nami's little like stick, like tinks the glass. It goes tink, and that's it. That's all that happens. It taps the glass, and this fucker breaks. To that, again, I say live action, please, rightfully and respectfully, fuck off. Like, honestly, that was just ridiculous in my opinion. It's ridiculous. It's not like it's kryptonite. Luffy would have busted out of there. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. Ugh. Anyway, I really didn't like that part, and that it's concerning. It's concerning because this is only episode 2. This is only episode 2, and we're gonna stick with this rule. Please let it just be a like minor little mistake because everything else is going okay. Jeez, ish. So another complaint that I have is about the scene where the guy that kidnaps Luffy is up against the sea snake, and he has to essentially deal with that. Here is some shit that don't make no sense. Luffy, again, the devil's fruit, if you become a devil fruit user, there's so many problems that was wrong with that scene that happened. If you become a devil fruit user, the issue is that you cannot swim. Okay, that was my whole round was just about just now. You cannot swim. That's what it is. It doesn't mean that you're vulnerable to the sea, and like the sea is like the sea turns its back on you. Like what no, don't get metaphorical. Tell these fucking people straight up that this bitch can't swim. That's all it means. And if that is the case, when he was a small child, we see him go overboard into the water where the sea serpent is, or whatever it is, sea monster they call it in One Piece, and he's there. And if that was the case, he would have drowned immediately. If it's some kind of vulnerable thing where he just can't, like, oh, it's like kryptonite, but that's stupid. He wouldn't have stayed above water for like a couple of seconds and then drowned. Like, the continuity of it. And the other problem I have with the scene is that, like, hey, like, what the fuck? Like, this looks like they're in a pool. I'm not okay with this. It looks like the production value from the pilot episode 1 went way down in episode 2. And again, I understand that we can't have bangers for every episode, but at least we could have the aesthetics of it looking somewhat believable in each and every episode. The consistency of that has to be there for sure. Again, in the comments, go ahead and tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Anyway, more to the scene of the inaccuracies of this Shanks and Luffy's interactions with the sea snake sea monster. This entire sequence in the anime happens in water. They decided to do it on a boat in live action. I wouldn't have had a problem with this until they did a wide shot and it kind of looked like they were on the shores, or it looked like they were in some kind of studio shooting this. The CGI was that bad for it. What happened? What happened to the first episode? In the first episode, you guys were doing so well. What the fuck happened? That's my thing. You were doing so good. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. I will say this too. Their credit though, the monster looks good. The monster kind of looks very much like the one in the manga / anime. It does look very intimidating. It looks like a sea monster. I would have liked to see it actually eat someone or do a little bit more maiming. I guess they didn't show the maiming in the anime for his arm, but that would have been the movie-esque thing to do. Do you know what I mean? That would have pushed it beyond the limits of just, hey, this is an adaptation. Now this is its own thing as a movie and an adaptation. That would have pushed it up to the next level. That would have done it. But they didn't do it because they could have the guy in the who kidnapped Luffy in the first place. They could have fucking killed him with the sea snake or whatever, just to show how badass these sea monsters are within this world. They could have done that, and that would have been fine. Because I remember in the anime or the manga, that guy again, he dies or something happens to him. He doesn't drown. I think the monster actually eats him. Anyway, they could have worked that in. They should have worked that in, and that would have made it again more believable to the world of One Piece. But anyway, there's just a lot of problems with this one episode. Shanks loses the arm in this. He loses his arm, but before that, and they try to drum it up as like a whole big thing. But before that, he gets rid of the monster, right? And he just tells it to basically get lost, like bug off, yeah. And this is okay because I think it's that kind of is like what happens in the anime / manga, and the sea snake actually fucks off. Side note a little bit though, I don't remember if like the way that it was done was like when Shanks told him to like fuck off basically. Was that? And I know if you're just watching One Piece and you're just getting started with this, you wouldn't really know if it is or if it's not. But for veterans of One Piece, was that? Let me know in the comments. Was that Conqueror's Haki that he used? I feel like maybe that was the first inklings of Conqueror's Haki. Because if it was, I mean, Yuichiro Oda is pretty friggin' impressive on his own, creating a whole world of in-depth illusion with that is One Piece. But that's actually really good planning. That's actually really good foreshadowing of the abilities in One Piece. I just didn't think about it. It just reminded me of Conqueror's Haki. But let me know, guys. What do you guys think? If that's what it's supposed to be like, look, that's what it is. And because we've seen Luffy do it before, and it's supposed to be some kind of special thing, where it's a special ability. We're not gonna get too into it because I'm trying to make this for everybody, veterans and old school anime watchers, so we're not gonna dwell too deep into exactly what that ability is, but let me know what you think, if that was it or not. So anyway, they hug, and just like similarly in the anime, Luffy looks at Shanks' arm and he recognizes the sacrifice that he's made from the sea snake taking his arm and etc. Very close to home to what the anime, paying homage to what the anime had done. And in that regards, respect is a good thing that they definitely kept that. That was a good thing that they did. But there was just definitely a lot of problems with that scene and a lot of issues too. And this episode has just more problems with it than the first. It does. Sadly, it does. And sadly, I say sadly because I definitely had some really high hopes for what this is / could have been, in terms of for what live action is, in general, and for One Piece as well. Last episode, I was more of an 80-20, feeling like maybe live action could work. Maybe this is going to be actually okay, pretty cool. I've been brought down to more of a 50-50 in this one for sure. I gotta admit. It's been brought down to more of a 50-50. Yeah, certain things were not working in this episode. Consistently, the acting and the choreography for Zoro and Nami's fight scene towards with Buggy, that was very consistent. That's something that was good. And also guys, please keep in mind, I'm not trying to bash this show whatsoever. Like, I'm giving this a fair, honest shot. And this is just my perspective and what I basically think on this podcast of these shows that I watch. I feel like I'm giving it a fair shot. This is One Piece though. And this is a product that's done so well that we are going to kind of get critical with it at times, but at the same time we're going to get critical with it, but at the same time it's going to be an even balance of like good and bad. It's not going to just be shitting on the show. So there you go. So in classic anime fashion, Luffy repeats the line of, if you hurt one of my friends, or if you hurt my friends, that's when I have a problem, rather than you spill wine on me or whatever it is that Shanks said long ago. I think he did actually say that, or say something similar to that, essentially in the anime. And again, paying homage to the anime is actually a good idea. In moving forward and actually making a live action thing very prosperous and being very successful, I think, to everybody. I'm not just saying anime watchers or manga watchers or manga readers or anime watchers. To everyone, I think these are just some things that I think to be aware of. And again, much like the anime, they pay homage to this, the little feet and the head essentially talking with Buggy, because they have now captured all of his parts in separate boxes. And that is that again, like doing things like that, paying homage to the manga, is something that will take the series, I think, very, very far. Yeah, I think, and honestly, there's not really much else to really say about this episode. They defeat Buggy, and they released all Buggy's captives of the town. They essentially got fucked up, and Shanks, they flash back to where Shanks fucked off when Luffy was still a child, and they leave it, and the story's all wrapped up with Nami so cutely fixing Luffy's hat and sewing it essentially back together. And you know the whole background story with, won't spoil it for you guys who are just like reading or watching this or seeing this maybe for the first time, potentially giving this a shot. We know the whole story or the issue with Nami, and that's definitely hinted towards at the end of this episode as well. But essentially, that's it. Definitely, man, not as strong as the pilot, not as strong as the pilot, but not horrible. Yeah. Just like every episode, guys, just before we leave, though, we're gonna do Ash's favorite scenes. Yay! Yeah. Okay, so favorite scenes in this episode of One Piece live action episode 2. I gotta say something, I guess, like, and this is, I guess, is gonna be tough because like this episode was a rough one, but there were some things that were cool. Coming in at number 3, I'm gonna say my favorite scene was that of I guess when they first met the Buggy Pirates. Yeah, when I first met the Buggy Pirates, just because of the aesthetics and how everything was kind of made look like a tent, like a tent circus kind of thing. I don't quite remember anything quite like that in the anime. Even though this was different, I still liked it because it was just like Buggy is Buggy the Clown. That's what he is known for, and it gave a more realistic, like believable movie, anime series, drama series character, rather than we're just pulling this from the manga a little bit. The character of Buggy needs a little bit of work, but I like the scene because of the aesthetics, and they made it look real. It doesn't necessarily play too close to the manga, but they made it look real. Coming in at number 2 for Ash's favorite scenes, I gotta say, is the fight with Buggy, and when he essentially was fighting Luffy. Actually, Luffy had gotten out thanks to Nami and Zoro, and they helped him escape, and then they started fighting with Buggy, and he did the gum bazooka on him, and he flew out. So that was actually pretty cool. I think that is actually how he beats him. So pretty nice. And then coming at definitely at number 1, the number 1 scene. I think the number 1 scene for me has got to be the fight at the bar. That was the most authentic thing, and that was the most piratey pirate thing. If you want to say it that way. That was the most piratey pirate thing of the entire thing. Cause like it stopped looking like, it's not that like it stopped looking like One Piece. It started to morph into not One Piece, and not a One Piece bad live action, but just a pirate show. That's what it started to look like. It started to look like a believable, integrated pirate show, and that's what I think this should be striving for. That's what I think all live action should be striving for, to be something based off of, but not like lifted under, or maybe copied directly right from the material source into where they're trying too hard and it's just janky and awkward and weird, and a little bit over the top. You know what I mean? So that was it. I really enjoyed that scene as well, because like the way that they were fighting, and it gives a little, I don't know, again, a lot of manga watchers were probably manga readers and anime watchers will probably know this, is that they don't really show Shanks' crew doing a lot of stuff these days, and in general moving forward they focus on Luffy. But that was actually just kind of cool to see Shanks' crew come to live action and them actually fight with the guns, and like again, like they were just like pirates. But yeah, those were Ash's favorite scenes, and not to put a negative twist on it, but from now on, we're gonna start doing Ash's worst scene. We're gonna start doing Ash's worst scene, because like honestly, I mean, this one, I guess I get very passionate about it, because like it's like the decisions sometimes people make in the production is just wow. Okay, so Ash's worst scene. And we're only going to do one because we don't want to have this podcast be like about negativity or whatever. And we're going to try to start to do them first, and then we're going to go into the good ones. We're going to do the bad ones first, and then go into the good ones from now on. But I got to say this, Ash's worst scene, Ash's worst scene. Ash's worst scene in this. Number one worst scene has got to be, I think, Luffy in this goddamn tank with Buggy. Luffy in this goddamn tank with Buggy. Because this shit don't make no sense. This motherfucker stand up and break out of that. There were no stakes there. There was nothing stopping him from being like Gum. What's the one he does when he turns into like a little twister, whatever it's called. Gum, whatever that is. Guys, correct me in the comments. You know what to do. Gum, whatever that is. There's no reason why he couldn't get out of there. There's no reason. There were no stakes there. If there was sea prism stones on him, like, that would have made sense. I would have been cool with it. They just had to put some little rocks attached to his leg, and I would have been fine with it. Oh, he couldn't use his gum powers. But he can use his gum powers as a dude taking a fucking shower. He can do it. Like, he can say, like, oh, I'm wet. Like, I can't do anything. No, it's not how it works. That was Ash's worst scene. Anyway, Linda, please give us the on review score. And lovely Linda, give us the on review score. Thanks.
One Piece live action, episode 2 receives a 2 out of 5.
Well, that's going to do it for me, folks. I am out of time. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. Remember to follow us on all of our socials, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. We're always up for our conversation and interact with all of our folks there on OnReviewCast. Thank you so much for listening, like I said before. And lastly, guys, don't forget, be safe, be kind, be you. Take care.